I'm not taking a break and having Brad Sham wait 4 minutes. That's what I'm not doing. There he is. Hey, Brad, hang on 1 second. Can you make
Pete,
sure
I
his
can
phone
wait
is up?
4 minutes if you want. That's not a problem.
No. We don't make you wait, my man. Brad Sham, what's happening?
I'm not sure yet. I haven't been outside. It's everything's good. The weather's fantastic. I could stay here as long as they want me to.
What is your favorite part about heading out to training camp in Oxnard?
Have you looked at the weather?
Oh, it's Southern California, right?
Well, you have your phone there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Google the weather in Oxnard, California.
All right, let me check.
But before you read it to everybody, just tell them what the temperature is there today.
All right, so we got right now 65 and not a cloud in the sky.
That's in Oxnard.
Yeah, though that's that's right. Right now we got a high of 94 coming today, and there's not a cloud in the sky, and it's going to be some of that sizzling heat that kind of makes your skin percolate, Brad.
Right, and so in Oxnard today, it's I've got 64 and cloudy. If I went outside right now, I'd have to have a jacket. I'd have to pull my hood up on my hoodie. By the time they practice today at 4:00 Central Time, 2:00 here, the Rams are coming to practice today. It's actually going to be hot today. It's going to be around 77. And then if I go out to dinner tonight, I will need a jacket because it'll be down around 68. The part that I like best, Pete, about coming to training camp, it's the weather.
Hands down.
Yeah.
1977 to 83, this was the Cowboys radio analyst alongside Vern Lundquist.
Actually started in the middle of the season in 76.
Okay, started in the middle of the season in 70. What happened where you started in the middle of the season?
They had hired Chris Needham Al Wisk had been with them working with Vern and Frank Lieber when he felt like it. And Al got in a fight with the general manager at KRLD, which was the flagship station. And he left in the summer of 76. And they hired Chris Needham, who spent some time in Temple and Waco, and it just that apparently didn't work out. And so they were ready to do something different. The biggest part of the job was actually not doing the games with Vern. It was doing a show like this 5 nights a week. There were only 2 in town. And I had started one on the smaller station that I was at in 1972. And so KRLD started one to compete with it and blew it out of the water. And that was the biggest part of the job. And so it wasn't working out with Chris, and they called me in October. I was the PR director of the Chicago Sting of the North American Soccer League, and the soccer season had just ended. And so they called me, and I'm really compressing this story a lot, but I wound up starting in October.
I love hopping in the time machine and hearing stories like that and getting some of the history. For people that don't know the history of the Cowboys, everybody's talking, Jerry, and I understand that. We'll get to that right now. But when you started in 76, it was so much the treatment of the media was glorious, right? By Tex Schramm. Like, what was it or was it not? You tell me. But I remember reading and just hearing stories from guys like you that it was a whole new – the media was treated in such a way that it sort of changed the coverage around the NFL.
That's a great point to debate. And people who were there, who were on the job even before I started, might have a different perspective. I think the really accurate way to say it would be that the whole media world was different. If you think about 1976, not only was there no internet, there was literally no ESPN. Literally. It didn't start until a few years later. So the media was the 3 local newspapers, and USA Today wasn't printing yet. and the 3 or 4 local TV stations, and then TV stations who would come in once or twice a week from around the state, and particularly in north central Texas, and then the national media, and that would be newspapers. And that was the media. Now, was the media treated differently? Yes, but the whole world was different. So access to players and coaches was completely different. And Tex was pretty famous for knowing how to deal with the media. He was also pretty famous for being really combustible. There's nobody, me included, Vern included, there is nobody who dealt with the Cowboys on a regular basis who at some point did not have at least one explosive fireworks blow up with Tex Schramm. And he had the great capacity of letting it go. I mean,
Just
2
letting it
days
rip.
later, 2 days later, he barely remembered it. Now, all his people around him did, and they could make your life difficult. But yeah, I mean, it was just a whole different world. It's almost not fair to compare it, but I think that if people in our business were being fair about it and looked back, they would say that it was relatively easy. The Cowboys made it easy to do your job. They didn't give you, and they didn't make it easy to be good at your job, but they made it easier to do your job. No one's doing anybody any favors today.
Well, you're out there now. I think the only training camp you have not seen the head coach, or the only head coach's tenure you haven't seen begin, is Tom Landry.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
you've seen them all get started.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Brian Schottenheimer starting his first training camp. What is the vibe around there that you're feeling? Brand new coach, turning the page on some stuff. What are you noting out there?
Well, from the time that we were given access to the 3 OTAs and the 3 minicamp days we could see, you could tell that there was an energy that wasn't here in the last couple of years, and that has a lot to do with Brian. It has a lot to do with a fairly young coaching staff, and they are high energy. He is, I think, doing a great job with the media because he answers every question. I mean, it may not be complete paragraphs on some things that he doesn't want to talk about, but maybe with 1 or 2 little subjects, he's not ducking anything. And he hasn't since the day he got the job. And that's a change. That's really unusual. I'd say that his openness, he uses the word authenticity a lot, and I think that it's true. I know a couple of veteran reporters who are already getting a little tired of hearing him say that, but I think it's true. I think he's who he is, and his enthusiasm is not like over the top, bubbly with rose-colored glasses, because he's been wanting to do this for a long time. But he knows what he's getting into. Look, being the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys is not the same thing as being the head coach of any other franchise. And in order to be successful, you have to understand that and embrace it and be able to deal with some of the things that might not happen in other places. And he has done a great job of that so far. He's very organized. He's very open with the players. Players love him. Now, all of that will not count for anything as soon as all of the offensive coordinators who have Twitter accounts get on there and start ripping him for play calls and touchdowns that don't get scored and players that don't perform well and games they lose. That'll all change. But right now, I think he's off to a really positive start. And also, the expectations are low for him from the public and the media. He was not in all of the coaching conversations the last couple of years. Nobody was talking about, well, you got to hire Brian Schottenheimer like they were Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn or some of those other guys. And so I think expectations are low. And then the smart thing to me is the way that he's dealt with the media, which is open and fair, he gets a little longer leash. He creates for himself a little longer leash, and that will, that'll get him through training camp anyway. We'll see what happens in Philadelphia.
Well, he's had a tough road to navigate so far in training camp. Obviously, the Micah contract. For you, who's been around it again, we mentioned, you see the whole field. And do you just see this getting done before the start of the regular season? Because folks from the outside, Brad, it's you mentioned fireworks. It's a fireworks display every time you turn around, but you're somewhat insulated, and you also have a great deal of history to lean on.
Yeah, well, I am somewhat insulated by the very nature of my job, but I've said more than once, either to myself or to people I've been walking by with, as beat writers are working in the media tent trying to put together the latest thing Micah has posted or Jerry's latest 20-minute press conference. I've said more than once, boy, I'm glad I don't have to do that anymore. I'm just getting ready for the games. That's a two-edged sword, Pete, because on one hand, yeah, I think it'll get done. They want him. They want to pay him a lot of money. He's acting aggrieved, and he's going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of $40 million a year on average. It's structure and years, but right now his feelings are hurt. And Jerry has always said he tries to follow the logic that you don't let your money get mad. I've seen him let his money get mad once or twice. It hadn't worked out well. But he's playing a little longer game. There are two things for a player to lose when you're in the middle of something like this. One is obviously money. If you hold out, if you don't play games, right now he's not losing anything. Really, now he would get a big fine having reported if he left camp, but he's not losing anything. They don't get paid except for a per diem until the regular season starts. Once you get in the regular season and you start missing game checks, that is serious money. And I've never known any of them who wanted, Emmett missed 2 games in 1990. And that wasn't this kind of money. It was a lot of money for them. So that's one thing that a player doesn't want to do, is lose money. The other thing is, and they're not all aware enough to get it at this stage of their life in the moment, but you don't get those games back. You don't get years back. So their opportunity to play the game they love and show off and take advantage of all the other opportunities that stuff provides, that stuff is limited, and you don't want to miss those. And he doesn't want to miss them. Micah wants to play. And he knows he's going to get paid. Right now it's about feelings. So you just have to let that go. We still have 2 weeks. We got, what's today? Tuesday? We've still got the better part of 2 weeks out here. And then you've got another 2 weeks before, maybe 3 before the regular season starts. So stuff has a way of getting done, and they have never shied away from the philosophy of deadlines make deals. I don't like it particularly, but no one cares what I like, and fans don't like it. It's ludicrous to say pay Micah. Of course they're going to pay Micah. On the other hand, no one ever wants to put themselves in the position of the owner who's dealing with a hard salary cap. And so I think that now I'm just getting into the why is this going on, and people just want to say, oh, it's just Jerry. Well, yeah, there's some of it. I mean, Jerry's who he is, and Jerry likes the drama. That's what makes Jerry different from the rest of us. Jerry loves the drama. He lives for it. You don't want to, when he said the other day when we I started to say when we came back out here, but we never left. When he said I would tell Cowboy fans don't lose any sleep over it the day after Micah put out the big Instagram post. And that's because these things almost always work out. I would just refer you back to Myles Garrett a year ago. I mean, he said almost the same things. I'm done in Cleveland. Trade me. It's been swell. See you later. And then, in 2 weeks, he's got a new lifetime contract.
Yeah.
But the thing that is not knowable is how much time does he miss? What kind of shape is he in? Football shape. I think it's to his credit and benefit that these hold-ins instead of holdouts are not bad things. So he is out there every day, and he's spending time in the meetings, and he's trying to pick up from Matt Eberflus what the defense is going to ask of him and give him the opportunity to do. So he wouldn't be coming in cold, but the training of the body for football specific work and position specific work, that's hard to get. And I'd be very careful. They will have to be careful depending on when he gets done. They'll have to be careful about how they avoid soft tissue injuries with that kind of thing. I mean, but it's unfortunate, and this is where look, this is my 47th year doing this, and it's all of them that except for the three I did the Rangers in the 90s with Jerry, and nobody, him or Tex before him, nobody's ever asked me my opinion about how to do anything. So, I think you run the risk of the negativity that Micah is putting out in social media rubbing off on the other players. It's impossible for them to ignore the drama. They're doing the best they can. And but we'll see. We'll have a spirited show to watch when they practice against the Rams today. And then the 3 preseason games will be interesting. But, I mean, logic just tells you that it will get done at some point.
I love that the one thing that Micah Parsons and I have in common, you can hit me over the head with a hammer, and that's okay, but don't hurt my feelings, because then it's a whole nother story. It's a whole nother story.
Well, that's the difference between Micah, in my opinion, that's the difference between Micah and CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott the last couple of years, and Zach Martin 2 years ago. Those guys are mature and they understand the deal. I think Micah kind of lives out on the edge a little bit more, and he is much more willing to use social media to burn a bridge to take care of what he feels like right this minute. And that's, what we're trying to do here is in the world is build lasting relationships, and that's a little tough. That's a little tough on that when you're pouring every available thought onto social media. That's not always a good idea.
No. All right. A couple more questions for you, because I know you got a busy day. You mentioned Matt Eberflus. How much change can he ignite as this team's defensive coordinator? Because obviously defense was a huge issue. I think this change could really work out for the Cowboys. Do you feel the same way?
I do, but I would say defense as an issue, we all are working on recency bias, Pete. It was only 4 years ago that Dan Quinn, it was 5 years ago that Mike McCarthy came in. Well, I guess it'd be 6 because Mike had a 5-year 2020. In 2020, admittedly a difficult year because of COVID.
Yeah.
The staff that Mike hired produced the statistically worst defensive team the Cowboys had ever had, statistically. Now, he hired those guys. They turned the staff over, and Dan Quinn came in, and their defense was the talk of the world, right? And they were in the playoffs for 3 years in a row, won 12 games 3 years in a row. That had neither of those things had been done with this franchise in 30 years. Wasn't enough, but the defense was not the problem. It was all the rage, and it's why Dan's the head coach in Washington now. Matt Eberflus he's got a different approach than Mike Zimmer, and I think Zim's scheme could have worked with the right players. But last year, when we talk about how bad the defense was, and it was, but they lost 4 defensive ends all at once. for a month. And then they lost all but about 2 players of their secondary. And one of those, arguably the best one, Jordan Lewis, is now in Jacksonville. And at the same time, they didn't have their quarterback much of the year. And so without any offense to support what you're doing defensively, then the pressure builds on the other side. So, yeah, the defense was bad last year, but those injuries, nobody could have survived those. So I think they did more to bring players in. I think that the veteran players they brought in will be really helpful. None of them's Dick Butkus or, none of them's Leroy Jordan or Bob Lilly, but that's okay. They're going to be improvements for the most part over what they've had. They're not going to have Trayvon Diggs until I don't know when, while he rehabs his knee. They're not going to have the rookie Savon Rebel until I'm sure he's going to miss a month, the first month of the season. And he's supposed to be phenomenal. But I didn't see him play in college, and I haven't seen him play yet because he's been rehabbing all spring and summer. So they don't have those guys. And then Josh Butler, who came off the practice squad last year, did a really nice job, filled in. He's still rehabbing. So it doesn't matter how good the scheme is if the players aren't good enough. I said to people last year when they lost all those defensive ends, you can have the best scheme in the world. They could have got you and me and signed us and taught us the defense perfectly, and we could have learned it, and we could have lined up and done everything right, and we'd have gotten our tires blown off because we wouldn't be good enough to play those guys on the offenses on the other side of the ball. So the scheme is only as good as the players, and if their players aren't good enough, then it really doesn't matter. I do think Eberflus is really good. He knows what he's doing. I thought that when he was here coaching the linebackers with the Cowboys before, and I think he did a really good job in Indianapolis as the defensive coordinator. He knows what he wants, and he knows how to communicate it. And there's some guys who are out there who have had exposure to him, and they believe in him. So, yeah, I think they'll be better, but they got to have their players.
Okay, 2 more questions for you. Because there's a lot of tension around training camp, at least from the outside, around all the contract stuff. What's the biggest reason for optimism this year for Cowboys fans?
I mean, the quarterback is healthy. That's one thing. Yeah, I think the offense is pretty good. I think the offensive line is going to be better. It starts with that. Their biggest problem with the offense, besides the quarterback being hurt, was the offensive line just not being very good last year. Cooper Beebe was a rookie. Guyton really never got the hang of it. Zach Martin was a shell of himself because he was hurt. So they just weren't good enough in the offensive line. If you're not good enough in the offensive line, you can't function. That line, given good health, looks to be a lot better. And the quarterback looks great. And I don't know if I would have signed or traded for Pickens if it was me, but for a year, you're not risking very much. And he looks great. His attitude's been great. And I mean, it looks like just from the pure football standpoint, I think they've got 2 dynamic wide receivers. I think they've got a real plan for how they want to use Turpin and maybe even Deuce Vaughn if he gets healthy again. And I think they are going to commit to the running game, which I think is a good thing. So I think there's a lot of reason for optimism, especially on that side of the ball.
You used to talk last year on some of your broadcasts, like every year Mike Sherman would say we're committing to the run, but he just didn't, he just couldn't stick to it.
Mike McCarthy, you talk about Mike said it. He said it for 2 years in a row anyway, and he either didn't mean it or he just got away from it in a hurry. I think Schottenheimer means it, and that's why they've signed some of the people that they've signed, and I think we'll see it in some of the schemes. And if you can run, you can throw when you want to throw. If you can't run, then you have to throw, and they play differently against you defensively, and it puts pressure on everybody all up and down the offensive lineup. So I don't think you have to have, balance stopped being 50-50 a long time ago. balance is maybe 65-35 now. If you can be balanced and you can run when you want to run, then you can pass when you want to pass. And then if you have the players, you can get something done. So yeah, I believe him. I'm dumb. I'll believe him until he proves us wrong. But I think he means it.
You mentioned Dak's health. Is Joe Milton ready to come in there if he were called on? Is he a better backup than, let's say, Cooper Rush? Hard for you to assess.
But the problem is, it's not just when you evaluate that. It's not just a question of who is physically more talented. I mean, Cooper. I don't know what he got to sign in Baltimore, but it was a pretty good sum, and he had earned his way into a nice veteran's salary. And Joe Milton's got a lot of physical characteristics, a lot of things to love. And we won't know really. I don't know if we'll ever know, but we will certainly have a better idea 4 weeks from now, after he's played in some preseason games, how he will react to stressful situations on the field. The worst quarterback in the league can make most of the throws. The thing that separates quarterbacks is the decisions they make. How do you see the field? How well do you know what your options are? And what do you do when the play breaks down? Dak's really good at that. And we'll see. You won't see fully in preseason because teams don't scheme. But there'll be people who don't mean him well running after him and trying to tackle him. And he'll have some decisions to make. He's got really impressive physical gifts. So we'll see. He's only been a year, in the NFL. Will he be as good a backup quarterback as Cooper Rush? He'll do some things better. He won't see the field as well. I thought myself, and I like Cooper Rush. I thought he took a step back last year from the player that he'd been the year before. And given the money, and given the fact that it's a hard salary cap, and you knew you had Parsons and Ferguson and Tyler Smith and Bland and Aubrey, and these people all need new contracts. I don't believe I would have invested that money in Cooper at this point. Now, if you think you've got a real Super Bowl team and the quarterback play might be the difference, then you spend a little bit more money. I think that's the case in Baltimore. That's what they think. Then you spend a little bit more money on a backup quarterback. So will he be as good a backup quarterback as Cooper Rush? In some areas, yes. In some areas, no. But hopefully we won't have to find out.
All right, I'll let you out of here on this. A question on August 5th that you probably don't love to get, but you're Brad Sham, so I got to ask you. Is this a playoff team?
Maybe. It's got a chance. I don't think I'd bet all my kids' futures on it. But every single year, there are teams who we know on August 5th are great, and they turn out to stink. And there are teams who we know stink, and they turn out to be playoff teams. So how healthy do you stay? How do you grow as a team? This is one of the most difficult schedules they've had in quite some time. And I am not one who likes to complain about the schedule because they're all pros and they shouldn't have easy games. But they happen to have the bad luck this year of playing two of the divisions, the AFC West and the NFC North, who are the most competitive. They got to play all those teams. So you got to play Detroit and Minnesota and Green Bay, and you got to play the Broncos and the Chiefs and the Chargers, and that's just bad luck. And based on what we know now and the way it looks, the second half of the schedule looks really, really difficult coming out of the bye. And there's a lot of difficult travel and stuff. So I wouldn't say that I wouldn't bet on it because I know these guys too well to ever bet money on them. But I wouldn't bet on it being a playoff team, but I wouldn't bet against it either. They have the opportunity to compete for that, and that just depends on them and how well they come together.
Well, looking forward to seeing it. Looking forward to hearing the soundtrack to the season. Thanks to you, Brad Sham.
Thanks.
It's an honor, Brad, to have you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a great day and stay inside in the air conditioning.
You got it. That's Brad Sham, everybody, the Hall of Famer. All right, we're going to come back, react to his legendary commentary, and there was a lot on the bone there, and just always great.